Hello, welcome back to Being Extraordinary. So today's topic, it kind of carries over a little bit from last week, and I'll take you on a little journey about how I got here. So I remember thinking, oh, I need to record a podcast. I need to record a podcast. And sometimes when I sit down to actually record a podcast, I have blank brain. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. I don't know what's important to talk about. And I know I have many a things that I could be talking about, but when it comes down to actually doing it, it seems I can't think of anything. I do have notes about what I want to talk about, but when you can't make yourself be inspired to talk about a particular subject. And so I was just being patient. I thought to myself, I will be inspired at the right moment. I don't have to force it. And then I had done this meditation. And again, as you guys know, since working with Kuan Yin in Walk on Wild Side at the beginning of 2026, I've been on this extremely eye opening journey of self compassion and honestly realizing how very little of that I had for myself. If I had any at all, it was very, very minor. And even as I'm awakening to the self compassion, I can still feel myself faltering back into not so positive mindset. But because that not so positive mindset being very critical, very controlling about myself, I don't really know any different in this lifetime. So it's hard to believe at times that compassion and softness and just knowing you're inherently worthy all the time is such a foreign concept to me. And if you're somebody who's close to me in my life, you know I'm grappling with this constantly. I'm really struggling with fully integrating this new belief of compassion. And if you want more about the entire journey, check out the last episode, which would be episode 34, I believe, The Truth About Destiny and Purpose. So this episode is kind of continuing on because I was looking for inspiration for podcasts. I didn't have any, and I went to this meditation, and I've been meditating and kind of still continuing to work with Kuan Yin, and there's this whole process going on. And one of the processes is in my meditation, and it naturally came to me. I don't force myself to do it, but it seems like I always end up here. And there's this river. And this river is where you kind of submerge yourself to be cleansed of your burdens, your limiting beliefs. And I always see this water wash through me, and I can see it almost like purple sludge or black sludge will just kind of peel out of my body. And I will name the burdens that I don't want to carry and let them kind of wash away. And as things wash away, something will begin to kind of wash in. And this time I had heard this statement that it's the waters of spirit, the waters of the divine. I knew it meant creator. And just creator energy from God or divine source or the universe was coming through my crown and just washing through me. And it had made me think about this really profound experience that I had had years ago. I have to tell you guys about it. And then we'll just keep talking about this message that comes over and over again to people who do have near-death experiences. It wasn't near death, but I did see Creator and what that really looks like for people, because the messaging is always the same. So let's go. And I would like to get some people on here who've had near-death experiences. I have 2 people in mind that I can reach out to. So I will be doing that momentarily so we can get hands-on experience from what happens in that space and how it feels. But here's my here's my starting point. So it's all going to come full circle, but just bear with me. So it reminded me of this dream that I had had. And I was looking back through my journals to see if I had written anything down about this dream, but I can't even remember exactly what year it was. But it was probably the year of 2022, 2023. So a hot minute ago. And those were 2 of the worst years of my entire life. And maybe one day I'll tell you guys the story, but I'm not ready yet. It's that bad that I'm not ready to really talk about that time period. I'm really good at just deleting that happened to me. So there's pre 2022 Kayla, and then there's post 2022 Kayla. We are different people. It's different lifetimes almost. But anyways, I was having a particularly challenging time in my life. And I do have interesting dreams on a semi-regular basis. They don't happen often, but maybe once every 2 years, I'll have this profound spiritual dream and I'm like, okay, I know I need to pay attention to that. And that's how I woke up, actually. I forget what episode I talk about it, and maybe I'll revisit it at another point, but I talk about the dream that snapped me out of reality, where I was like, okay, that was a really weird couple of dreams. There were two back-to-back dreams. So it happens through dreams. And then I'll get these little kind of really profound dreams sprinkled in throughout my life since that moment. But this was one of those dreams, 2022, 2023. And I don't remember how I ended up here. And in these dreams, it almost feels like you're transported to another place. You just kind of arrive in this, that's how it always feels. You just kind of arrive in this bizarre place and you're kind of dropped there and you're very aware that you've been dropped somewhere strange. I know this, it feels different than a dream. Anyways, I'm dropped into this place and it just kind of looks like this black void. And I'm looking around and I'm trying to figure out what I'm really looking at. And as I'm sort of adjusting to the darkness, I start to see what I know is creator, what I know is God, what I know is divine source or universe. I just knew in that moment. And it manifests as kind of the galaxy. It's like stars, but it's moving the way that the ocean moves. It's breathing. I can tell it's moving the way the ocean moves, it's breathing, and it's just very fluid. And I'm probably going to cry talking about it because it was a really profound experience. And I'm just watching it. And there's two things I immediately notice. Number one, it doesn't say anything to me. And I just say it because it's not man or woman, So creator doesn't say anything to me, but I know we're telepathically connected. It still hasn't said anything to me, but I know that it's kind of listening to my process and we're connected. I can feel it. And so I'm just observing. And the two immediate observations that I take in is I know it's creator. And a lot of times in every spiritual endeavor, if we have to gender God or creator, it always goes with the masculine. And I remember distinctly noticing that it wasn't that masculine. But hang on, let me explain. It's not that it wasn't masculine, but because we consistently gender God, creator, spirit, divinity with him, you almost expect it to be very masculine just because of that. And it wasn't that it wasn't, but there was also this really profound kind of feminine energy behind it. And I knew that it was neither. It was neither masculine or feminine. But because you kind of anticipate the masculine energy, I remember thinking that it was oddly more feminine than I had expected. But just to clarify, it wasn't more masculine or more feminine. It was just my preconceived ideas because of the way we speak about it that I noticed how feminine it was also. So that was something that I first noticed. And I was like, okay, very interesting and cool because we knew this, we suspected this. And probably the most profound other observation that I had was creator was fucking beaming with joy and love. A type of love that you don't even know exists on planet Earth. There's nothing comparable to it. There's just nothing comparable to it. There isn't. But it's complete and utter acceptance as you are. There's just nothing like it. To be so seen, so understood without saying a word, and completely the apple of something's eye. And it was really powerful. And the one thing I noticed, maybe even more than that love, because I had touched those threads of love before on other journeys. So, of course, creator would feel that way. But the most powerful thing was it was so joyful. There was just this beaming, radiant joy coming off of creator. And it was doing nothing. It was just breathing. It was just existing. It was just sitting there. And I almost felt that it was thinking, this is the fucking, excuse my language, but it was so powerful. It was thinking, this is the best moment ever. And every single moment was the best moment ever. Last moment that it was in was the best moment ever. The next was the best moment ever. It was so joyous. And so I sit there for a long time just observing, kind of almost eavesdropping on its thoughts. But it's not in words, it was more like feeling. So I was eavesdropping on its feelings. And I was just kind of taken aback by it. The only thing that the creator said to me with words instead of feelings was, isn't it wonderful to simply be alive? Isn't it wonderful to simply be alive? And I knew in that moment, just a flash of immense understanding overcame me. And I realized very similarly to kind of the last episode that the point of anything that you do in life is to just live it, to just be here, to just be in the moment, experiencing the ecstasy of whatever that moment has to bring to you. Obviously, on Earth, it's a way different playground than the galaxy of stars, the ocean of stars that was Creator. But I knew that it meant that I was constantly trying to achieve something at some distant point in my life. And I was so critical and controlling and afraid to fail or afraid to let go or to afraid to enjoy because I didn't feel worthy of it, which, as you know, through the last year, I've been talking about this, and even the last episode, been talking about this problem that I can't experience joy. I will feel moments of joy for sure, but I don't think I really feel worthy of it. I don't think I have previously felt worthy of it. Working on it though. And I just got it. And I almost seen this picture, and I see this picture, and I believe that it was in the dream, but obviously my eyes were locked on Creator that I don't remember what I was doing. But this is this visual that I consistently see, and I believe that it originated from that dream, where it's moving like the ocean, but it's the galaxy. Basically, I see myself hanging onto this raft for dear life. I'm like white knuckling, grabbing this floating dock, and I'm just holding on so tightly because I think if I let go and I just surrendered to joy or surrendered to happiness or to surrendered to flow, that I will drown and die. And in the moment after, Creator said to me, "Isn't it wonderful to simply be alive?" I let go of this dock and I'm completely held. I float perfectly and I felt joy. I felt the joy in my body the way that Creator had felt it in their body. And it was the most magical experience of realizing that what you think matters is not at all what matters in life. And I have a few more kind of examples that I will show you and just kind of some cool things that happened after that. But I did write a poem after that experience, much like last week or last episode, I shared the poem I wrote from my journey from Kuan Yin. I'm going to share you with this one with you as well. So it's called Creator. I met God in the ocean, swimming with the stars, vast and alive, devoid of purpose, and rich with being alive. She said to me, "Isn't it wonderful to simply be alive?" And in that moment, I surrendered to the unknown, swimming in my aliveness with my Creator. And even when I read this poem, it's just captures everything that happened in this really beautiful way. Okay, back to my meditation. This is how this started. I could feel the rivers of the divine coming through my body. And it reminded me of that dream, which I hadn't revisited the poem in a long time. I remembered the Creator had said to me, "Isn't it wonderful to just be alive?" And I knew that it was beaming with joy, but I kind of forgot the whole surrender part. I forgot about that part. So then I came out of my meditation and I reread this poem and I was like, okay, wow, yeah, I'm struggling with this right now. Because if you're surrendering to joy and it's something that you inherently haven't felt worthy of, I'm in this limbo and I'm very aware because I'm told about it every day. Every time I meditate, the same story comes out. They're like, okay, here's what's happening to you. You used to believe that you needed to suffer before you were worthy of any type of reward, whether it was travel or joy or money or love or whatever. You had to suffer. You had to work really hard to prove that you were worthy of whatever goodness came to you. And that is very clear. I worked so hard. I had 2 jobs my whole life. Even before I would go on a trip, I would try to make all this money before I went. I would run these programs. They would cripple me energetically because it was so much work. And then if you talk to my sister ever, she will tell you that I used to go on these trips with her and I was the most chaotic person ever because I didn't take time to prepare. I would forget my passport. I would not pack correctly. And I would show up to whatever I'm doing at max stress. So then it takes away from the joy of it. And then I would always battle myself about certain things feeling worthy of. I went to a Noah Kahan concert last summer, so a year ago. And I feel obviously a lot of people love Noah Kahan. Okay, he's very, very famous. The View Between the Villages album, every single song on that album is such a banger. And obviously a lot of people feel this, otherwise he wouldn't be so popular. But Noah somehow has this ability to write feelings out that I have and explain it in a way that you're like, okay, I know exactly what he's talking about. So fantastic album. Everyone knows how much I love Noah Kahan. I am obsessed, and I was obsessed, like 24/7, 365. Noah Kahan comes to Saskatoon and everybody's going. There's like 10 of us in 2 groups, and it's amazing. The tickets were rather expensive, and like it's hard to even say because you realize how low value you see yourself. But when I was at that concert, I was so anxious because I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. Because no, seeing Noah Kahan live is a high reward. So how worthy or unworthy I feel of something is how amazing it is to me in my internal ranking system. So there are certain things, for example, if I go to Banff is really beautiful, but you drive there and it's not a super expensive trip. It's kind of a common popular thing that people do. It's easily accessible. I usually can manage Banff, especially if I'm going with my sister or my partner Graham. I can manage Banff. I feel okay there. But then just certain things I'll deem as really high reward, and that is how proportionally I feel of that event. And Noah Kahan ranked pretty high. So the whole time I'm so anxious to the point where I have these thoughts that I shouldn't even be there. I should be at work. I don't deserve to be here. I shouldn't have spent money on this. Like, what? And that was only a year ago, guys. So I've come a long way because at least I recognize what's happening, but this is kind of what I'm doing. So I was told many times this is what you're unlinking, and you've unlinked in your brain that you have to suffer for a reward, but you've kind of swung into limbo now. I'm in the void, and they're like, okay, but here's what's missing. Now you have to still expect that you're worthy of a reward, but it can come through ease or joy. And nobody tells you that dismantling some crappy belief means you have to build another one back up. And so dismantling a crappy belief is hard enough as it is, right? It's especially because I think this is my Achilles heel. And I think we all have layers to peel back. And this one is a core founding feature of who I am. So it's more challenging. And so dismantling a belief is challenging enough, but we have so many tools in the spiritual community to dismantle the belief. So I've been able to dismantle it, but I've just been stuck in basically this place of not suffering, but not really obtaining any type of reward because I haven't built a different bridge that says, okay, wait. You can still have rewards, but do it through joy. So I think that makes sense, right? I've stopped torturing myself with efforting so hard before I get something. I'm taking life a little more fluid, a little more surrendery, a little more chill, a little more like, okay, that doesn't feel good to me right now, or I need more rest, or I don't, and I'm just chilling. But so is the aspects of rewards in my life. I see myself not being able to tap into that. And I feel like I've went backwards. Why is it so hard? And they're like, because of this missing link. You're trying to build the link that joy or ease or peace can equal rewards. So I'm still kind of stuck a little bit building that. I'm still building this new connection so that I can essentially create that reality for myself because surprise, surprise, what we believe is what we create, which is different than what we think. Okay, our thoughts are partly creative, but our thoughts are some of the least important parts of what we create. It's our true core rooted beliefs that are projected out and then returned to us. But maybe more on that in a second. So I'm coming out of this meditation and I am realizing that the reason they showed me this or drew me back to this memory of meeting God or creator is because creator in this dream, because creator in this dream is experiencing joy. Massive amounts of joy is the thing I remember the most. Joy, and there was love there too, but the joy was the loudest to me. And that's what I was being reminded about, that joy and that pure ecstatic existence is the point. So they were trying to remind me that that's what our creator, that's what divine source, that's what spirit wants for us, is to tap into that joy. And it was trying to remind me that is the point, because the link for me is, I've said this out loud to people, how do you know for sure that you are allowed to have joy? How do you know for sure? What if it's frivolous or immature, which I know I can hear what it sounds like, but they're thoughts I have genuinely or have genuinely had. So they're trying to remind me that this is the quintessence of life is this joy. The coolest part, and I have this massive breakdown when this happens, but I sometimes will pull a card, an oracle card after I do a meditation. And I don't really have a great intention for it, but I'm always hoping that it's going to affirm everything I've seen in meditation so that I can truly be like, all right, that's the homework. I get it loud and clear. Victor, Victor, message received, And so I have this beautiful Kuan Yin deck that my friend gave me after Walk on the Wild Side. Obviously, I'm connected to Kuan Yin, but it is a freaking epic deck. It's so good. It's so perfect. And so I pull the card, and the card is with joy, the impossible will be rendered possible. And already that's pretty on point. And it's a very, very big book, novel, the write-ups. It's beautiful deck, and it's the Wild Kuan Yin deck, if anyone's wondering. Anyway, it's a chapter, it's a novel. So I flip to the page, and I'm reading. It's all making sense, and I'm getting to the bottom of one page, and it says, for you to begin to tap into this very spiritual place, which is the joy of, and then it pauses, that's the end. And I said to myself in my head, if this says on the next page, the joy of being alive, I'm going to lose it. And I flipped the page, and it said, the joy of being alive. And I just had this breakdown moment because there was so many synchronicities that had happened, click, click, click. And it was just this utmost magical confirmation, because any spiritually, I actually believe all of us, but even people that are sort of good at connecting to spirit through meditation or, channeling or whatever it is people do to connect to their internal self, there's a really big disconnect between what's happening in there and what's happening in reality, quote unquote. And it's really hard to be like, I'm hearing what I'm hearing in meditation, and it makes me feel light, it makes me feel alive, it makes me feel hopeful. But then you look at what's going on in everyone's life, and it doesn't look like 1 + 1 = 2. So it's really hard to build the bridge from your internal world to reality sometimes, because the physical reality, let's say, because it's just not conducive to any of this. So that moment for me was just groundbreaking because it was so loud and perfect. And I was like, okay, I get it. Whatever I hear in there, I have to just apply to real life, despite what it looks like out here. And then the other really cool thing about this was that I know what I have to talk about on my next podcast episode. And so it just affirmed so many things, because at the beginning of this episode, I'm talking about how I couldn't find any inspiration. I was like, I don't know what to talk about. And actually, Kuan Yin had said to me, the inspiration will come. Stop trying to force things. Even though you say you want to release a podcast every 2 weeks, you have to wait for the inspiration. But ironically, this happened a week ago, so I could have been maybe more on time. But anyway, it doesn't matter. And I was like, now I know what to talk about as well. So it was just this beautiful moment of realizing that what happens in that space and whatever you see or hear there is coming to you, whether it's from a dream or a meditation, is coming to you because it's something that you need to apply to your life. And ever since my podcast episode with Tanya Peranto, a couple episodes back, where she left the cult, she talks about in that episode that she said she can really tell in her hands what feels light and aligned or what feels heavy. And she says in the podcast that she's always been able to feel that in her hands and weigh my options, and whatever feels lightest, always do it, even if it doesn't make any sense. And ever since that moment, I've been asking myself, how do I know what's true or what's real? And I talk about this as well in another episode, which is how to discern the truth in the age of information where everything's a lie. So I know when something feels empowering or disempowering. And if something feels empowering, I always know that it's true or spiritual, because obviously our God or creator, divine source, wants the absolute best for us based upon that little tidbit alone. But also I have noticed that my body will inhale and just my shoulders will drop when I feel something that's really true. And then now I'm starting to listen to that and I'm putting that into practice. So still working on building my connection between joy and rewards, but it's got to be coming soon, right, guys? Really been unearthing this for a hot minute. But anyway, I have more to tell you about this, which is also just more synchronicities and more magic about confirmation that the point of life is just to simply be alive and find every moment of joy that you can while you're here. And it is the smaller things. It's not these big, huge things all the time. Every day there's these opportunities. But anyways, here's something else that happened. So I can't tell if I did this on purpose or if I subconsciously chose it, but I did this really interesting thing that just confirmed this. So fast forward a week And I suddenly have this desire to watch near-death experiences. So my two favorite things to hear people talk about are children that remember their past lives and near-death experiences. Because to me, it's one of the more, it's still anecdotal, but it's one of the more confirming ways to really see what's going on, that spirit is real. So when people almost die and when kids remember their past lives, that's enough evidence for me at this point, because usually they say very similar things and you're like, great, consider me a believer. And it's not that I don't believe, but because the world of spirit, physical reality, are so at odds, you really got to grasp, you really got to visit the spiritual place often so that you can tolerate what's going on in our physical reality. If you just think about the news, our governments, corporations, the well-being of Mother Earth and the planet, the way people structure their everyday lives, sometimes, I mean, who am I to judge? I don't judge. But I look at people who I love and the way that their life is configured. I don't think it's supposed to be this hard, especially people with kids and how busy they are and how tired they are. This sounds not right about this, or people who work jobs that suck the life out of them and you could just see their light turning off slowly. And we've normalized that. And then over here, spirit is like, no, you should just feel pure ecstasy every single moment that you're a human. Don't deny your emotions, but you can also tap into that joy all the time. It's available to you. It's okay to be sad too, of course, but how do these things click? They kind of don't. But I think that's the point of life, right? And I've talked about that in other episodes too, is the point of life is to remember what's really going on here, despite the amnesia and despite the darkness that's on this planet, or the heaviness that's on this planet. So I had decided that I was sick of watching true crime. He knows I don't like true crime, where it's like murder or things like that. I can't watch that, and he knows that. So when I'm away, he'll watch those ones. I just hate them. We don't watch a lot of TV, but when we do, we want to watch something that's true or real. It's hard for us to get into storylines or sitcoms. We want to watch something where we can learn. So we had kind of been on this bender of true crime. Again, it's more like con artists, but I had started to feel, okay, this is too much true crime. I'm not feeling good. I don't like this. No, thank you. So I suggest we check out some spiritual documentaries. And there's a really great one on Netflix, and I think it's called Surviving Death. And there's some stories about kids who remember their past lives. It's fairly empirical, the process that they have. And then there's some near-death experiences, but I've already watched that twice. I was like, gosh, gotta be some more. So then I found on Prime, Death and Back 1 and Death and Back 2. And I'm not going to sit here and endorse everything on it. There's some kind of cringy moments and it's not super empirical, but there's these people that share their stories. So there's these 2 episodes and there's like 5 people on each, and they start sharing their experiences and their near-death experiences. And I kid you not, the first girl on the show, I'm sure it was the first girl, that starts talking about what happens in her near-death experience. And a lot of them mention very similar things. But this girl says, she's like, it was God was, or creator was this galaxy, and this kind of galaxy that was sort of moving and breathing. No way, because that's what I saw too. And I think she says that the messages that she got from God in her near-death experience were they're always super similar, where we're missing the point. And I will tell you a couple of examples, and you should watch the documentaries. I think they're on Prime if you have it, for free, I believe. And they're very uplifting, very uplifting. So it's a great little docuseries, but a lot of them say that, God or creator says to them that they all feel that divine love and really true acceptance. And then creator says to them that they're kind of missing the point of life. That we look for the moments in our life that glorify us, or that we feel we've accomplished something major. She does this life review, and she was very nervous because she knew the life review was coming. She could feel it when she died, and she was going to do this life review. And she was like, and the first time they do the life review, all the moments that she would have deemed really positive in her life, the moments where she was successful at her work, or where she was a good parent, or where she, got a promotion or whatever. And then God's just observing, yeah, those are great. And then she's asked to put on some glasses, and she knew they were God's glasses or creator's glasses. And she put on creator's glasses, and they do the life review a second time. And she said that this was creator assessing how her life was meaningful. And it was all these micro moments where you did something that you never would have acknowledged was a big deal. It was just this nothing moment where you didn't think a lot about it, and it just happened, and there was like kindness in that moment. And she said that one of the things that creator had really acknowledged that was a really beautiful moment in her life was that she was at a grocery store and the lady, and this is something she hardly even remembered that she did. That's how everyday kindness it was. She didn't mark it on her book being like, what a good deed. She almost forgot that she did this. She said that she was at a grocery store and the lady, it was a young mother in front of her, was 72 cents short for the grocery run that she had. And she was spending this time, she was super embarrassed and she was trying to figure out what to put back. And just automatically, the girl who's dying that was reviewing her life was like, oh, I have 72 cents, and just gave the dollar and she was able to keep everything. And she said that the young mom was super embarrassed and she just looked at her and said, it's okay, we've all been there. And then she got to zoom out and see that ripple effect. And later on, that young mother had gotten a job working at a food bank. And one of the things that she constantly said to her clients that felt embarrassed for coming to the food bank was, don't be embarrassed. This is what we're here for. We're here to help. And then how that rippled out, how with the clients that she served at the food bank, how that kindness rippled out into their lives where they felt less shame for who they were. And that was a theme, that the moments that were really big accolades, obviously God's not judging you. You just do the review to see how you did, but that those were the moments that mattered most. And do you see once again how it's just these, as it jumps off from the last episode to this one, that it's not our destiny, our purpose, our reason for existence has almost nothing to do with the type of accolades. What matters has almost nothing to do with these external markers of achievement. It's literally the way that you truly live your life in the micro moments that add up to this beautiful life, which really, I think, echoes what Creator had said to me in the dream. Isn't it just wonderful to be alive? And even though Creator never said this to me, because it's a very loving and accepting energy, I know that that dream came to me because I was missing the point. I was so afraid to just enjoy my life, to just surrender, to just trust that something bigger than me might be taking precedence, that I was ruining my day-to-day moments. And I'm not going to lie, I can be guilty of that. I have to consistently imagine myself letting go of this floating raft and just floating and enjoying it. I have to consistently get myself to let go. But I'm really learning a lot about what really matters. So that has been my journey with what's been going on lately. And a lot of the messages, again, you should just watch the docuseries. It's pretty good. But a lot of people basically say the same thing, that it's these little moments they never thought mattered. And it's really about loving people and experiencing joy and doing things that matter to you and getting off your high horse and letting go of your ego and letting go of comparison or putting people in boxes and saying, I'm better than this person, or this person's better than that person, or I'm good at this and they're good at that. And all of that stuff really robs us of the joy of life. And something really funny, I think it was a different docuseries, it was a lot older, and the interviewer kept asking, well, obviously saw what heaven was going to be like, but what was hell going to be like? And all of them say, oh, I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist, but I think being on earth is hell because you're separated from that love and you have to try to find it yourself and try to remember yourself. And me and Graham were laughing because we're like, okay, this docuseries is making me can't wait till I die. We turned that one off because it wasn't negative, but it was a lot older. It was probably created in the 90s when the consciousness or the knowledge or the way people are conveying the messages was just different. It wasn't as uplifting. And I was like, okay, this is getting depressing. I just can't wait to die now. But anyway, just another confirmation about what really matters and following those really powerful synchronicities, because I don't know why I wanted to watch that. I wasn't doing it on purpose to try to confirm my dream about Creator, because it wasn't a near-death experience. It was just a dream. But then weirdly enough, the first girl on the first season is the one with the glasses. And she's talking about how she perceived Creator. And it's exactly how I perceived Creator. I'm softly crying the whole time because, oh my God, you can't make this shit up. What are the fucking odds of that? Do you know what I mean? And there's lots of really cool synchronicities, especially when you're tapping into something profound. It's so easy to dismiss it, but just keep it at the forefront of your mind because the universe will give you little signs to confirm that that's true. So I think that's really something that is I've been working on a lot too, and I really encourage you to as well. If you feel a dream or an experience that you have in your real life, or even like a really aha thought that you have, write it down or hold on to it and say, could this be true? Could this be a message from my own spirit? Could this be a divine guidance? And then watch the synchronicities, because the fact that this girl described Creator exactly as I did was like, boom, just a cherry on top of something that had already kind of cracked me open in a way that I didn't expect. And then I think also the reason that it keeps happening is because it's so easy for me to just put that on the shelf because it is a big lesson for me. So it's uncomfortable. I don't want to torture I'm not suffering. I don't know how to just surrender to that. And it's frustrating. You have to battle in your mind all the time between who you were and who you're becoming. And they're always arguing. And it's so easy to want that to be true, but it's too hard to reconcile in your mind. So you just let it go. So then it comes at you here. It comes at you here. It comes at you here so that you don't forget and you don't put it on the shelf for later. So I would love for everyone to try that. Try that. Pay attention to something and watch as the universe affirms that it's for you. Even there's so many small examples. I'll give you smaller day-to-day examples that aren't this profound dream, because it's such a big thing I'm dealing with. So randomly, there's been quite a few in my life lately. So it's still kind of connected to joy, but something that I did a few weeks ago is I really love working at a coffee shops. But there's not always a lot of days where I can just pack up my work and go to a coffee shop, because if I'm recording a podcast, can't do that at a coffee shop. If you are doing a session for someone, can't do that at a coffee shop. There's just only so many things in my work that can be done at a coffee shop. It feels like a frosty day in hell when those opportunities present themselves. But that is, once again, me saying that work can't be fun or enjoyable. It has to be grinding. So there was this day a few weeks ago where I was like, oh, heck yeah, I can go work at a coffee shop. So I happened to just be wearing an outfit that I really loved, because ironically, working with Kuan Yin also made me really see how much value I have in my self-expression. So I had a cute outfit on. I wear them at home too. It does tie into the story. So I was wearing a cute outfit. I went to the coffee shop and I got a ton of work done. I had this delicious matcha latte. It was amazing. It was quiet. The vibes were on, and it was such a freaking good day. It was filled with the joy of being in a moment. And I really enjoyed who I was that day. I really enjoyed the choices that I made in my life, because I really enjoy working at the coffee shops. And then literally the next day, I was going to a market with my mom, and she works at the school that I went to school in as a kid. And ironically, right now, the principal at that school is the same principal that I had when I was a child for many, many years. And while I was at the coffee shop, his wife was there. And I did see her, but I mean, I haven't seen her in years. I didn't think she'd recognize me. So I wasn't going to go over there and talk to her. She wasn't my principal. She was my principal's wife. So I did see her. So the next day I see my ex-principal, and he's like, you're here. My wife saw you yesterday and she thought you just looked so interesting and so professional. She thought your outfit was cute. And she was like, what does Kayla do for work? And he's like, so he told my mom. And my mom was supposed to tell me, but I ended up seeing him ironically the next day as well. And so he told me. And that was just the perfect confirmation, or synchronicity, if you will, that affirmed, hey, life might be about how much joy you can find in a moment. This is a really positive feedback loop from that choice you made. You should make it more often. That kind of thing. Another one happened just today. And it was it's also kind of bizarre, but they can happen in the most simple ways. So I was walking through the forest this morning, and I was like, it's kind of an emo thought. We're going a little bit darker, okay? So I was just thinking, I was like, my God, when I'm done this life, I really hope I don't have to come back. Please let it be the last time I have to put myself through this form of suffering, because being a human on earth is just frustrating. And as you can tell, I've been battling myself a little bit. I've come so far, and I can't wait to make this new neural pathway of joy and ease equals rewards, because catch me, I will be unstoppable if I can get these things to connect. Anyway, I'm walking through the forest with my dog, and there's mosquitoes and it's really bad tick season. I found like 100 on my dog. So everything's just been like slightly less easy. And it's sort of these factors outside of my control. But anyways, I'm in the forest and I'm more thinking about my personal life. It's not the bugs. I got a charm for that. They don't bother me. But so I'm thinking in my head, Earth is so hard. I'm so sick of not knowing. I'm sick of the unknown. I'm sick of trying to figure this out. Ugh. And I'm like, I don't want to come back here. And then I can hear this internal thought of being, well, if you imagine your life like a movie or a story, don't you kind of love being the heroine? And we're all the hero, we're the heroine of our own story. And before we come to Earth, we get to preview what our life could be like. We have many different types of outcomes because we have free will, but we see the different outcomes available to ourselves, and we're the main character. And I kind of remembered that while I was complaining about my life for a moment. Just a moment. Okay, just a moment, I swear. And I was like, oh, you're right. I'm sure I love this shit. I'm sure that I love being the hero and the main character. I'm sure that I'm like, what challenge are we up to next? And I get excited about it. And then I was like, you're probably right. And then I thought, well, what part of the story are we on? Because obviously every book or movie follows a sort of plot, right? There's not knowing your potential and then starting to get upset about something so that you're like, I got to conquer this quest because I'm mad about this. And then you realize that you're stronger than you ever were. And then you kind of have this moment in the plot where you almost lose the battle and you're almost going to fail, but then you rally and you recalibrate and then you get where you're going. The climax is there and that lasts for however long. And then every book right after the peak experience usually wraps up pretty quickly. So what part of the story am I on? When does it get to the really good part, you know? And I'm aware of how it sounds. I know. Don't worry. My spirit guides have been bothering me about this too. I'll tell you what they've been saying to me, but just one second. So when we get to the good part, and I heard this kind of intrusive thought, which I usually think is my higher self answering my dumb human questions. And they were like, you're at the part where you're recalibrating before it gets to the good part. You're so close. It's the low right before the high. Please tell me I'm past the part of almost defeat. And I thought about the 2022, 2023 time of my life. And they're like, no, that was your almost defeat. And you're well past that. You know, it's kind of something laughable now. And you're past that. You're at the restructuring your plan and your plot right before you get to the peak experiences or the peak part of the story where things start to get good again, you know? I'll take it. And it was just these really passive thoughts that I'm having. It's not these profound downloads. They're literally passive thoughts that I'm noticing. And then later this morning, my sister texted me and she had screenshotted me a text conversation that we were having during that really dark time in my life. And she's like, this popped up on my phone and it was a glitch because there was a group chat. And she said, when I clicked on that group chat, this was the most recent message. And it was from literally 2022. And she's like, I don't know why I feel compelled to send this to you. And that's just super weird. Why would that be the most recent message in our group chat? Clearly, we were talking yesterday. There's way more recent messages than that one. It's 4 years later. And she's like, I just feel compelled to show you this. I'm pretty sure that that's a weird synchronicity and a weird confirmation that's saying that those thoughts that I had earlier, or that insight that I had gained earlier today, is true. Because I got a little flashback to this really difficult moment in my life. I also think I pulled a card this morning too, and it was just like, you're being a big crybaby. You have everything you need. Everything's fine. You're just being a little bitch, you know? And I also feel like getting that message from my sister was also, yeah, you're doing really well compared to where you were in 2022. You're being a little bitch. So it could be also confirming that thought, but they were all tied in together. So that's great. And I'm just being a little crybaby. It's true. But this is what happens. So just so everyone knows too, this is what happens when you are shifting these mind frames. Your survival self. So our ego is the part that in some ways keeps us safe. They have other purposes too. The ego drives us forward so that we have ambition and we go after things. But the ego also keeps us safe. And the ego's skill set for keeping us safe is to inflate us, which is kind of, I think, what people think the ego does, where it's, I'm better than you and everyone's below me, blah, blah, blah. So it'll inflate you to make you feel safe, or it will deflate you. I'm not good enough. I can't do this. Who are you to think you could? Screw you, kind of thing. And so when you're changing an internal norm, that protective part of you, that ego, gets really, really loud because it is invested in making sure that you don't change, because it doesn't know what happens if you start living your life in a way that joy and ease equals a reward. It doesn't have data for that choice. It only has data for the choice that if you suffer, you get a reward. And I've lived 36 years still alive with that path. So it knows, it has data to say you haven't died yet, so this must be working. But then it doesn't have data for joy equals a reward. So it's saying, well, you better not try that because you could die. I don't have data and my job's to keep you safe. So I'm going to tell you that's stupid. You can't. It's not going to work out. And so I'm in the process of change. So that little voice inside my head, I've named him Kevin because he's just such a freaking bum. I'm not saying Kevin's a bad name, but it's a long story. It's a long story. But anyway, he's so loud. And this morning he got the better of me. And so I heard the message, I'm being a crybaby. I get it. Kevin is getting too loud. Enough of Kevin already. Anyways, run the test, because I think in an increasingly dark, heavy, confusing, challenging world, and the only way to find more joy and to experience life in a way that's easy and blissful and abundant and rewarding and basically tapping into the quintessence of life, I think we have no choice but to begin to listen to our hearts, to begin to listen to that little voice inside in our head, or the way that we feel tension melt off of our bodies when something empowering or uplifting is said to us. We have to start paying attention to those little cues and nudges, because otherwise you get sucked into life is suffering, or life is about how hard you work or how little sleep you get, or we're just holding on, hoping that one day something will rescue us from that floating board in the ocean of tension and the ocean of hanging on for dear life and control. But I don't think that moment ever comes. You waste your life in that energy. I don't want to say waste your life because creator would not like that. You just kind of miss the point. And I think the only way to start kind of adding new data and saying, what if it could be this way, is if we really are paying attention and looking for the signs and synchronicities, because the universe and God and creator and divine source wants you to feel joy and win so badly, right? I said in the way that it felt when I was looking at creator was I was the apple of its eye. I was just everything to creator, and it knew everything about me, and it loved me more than you ever thought you could be loved. And so if that's the energy that exists behind the veil, behind the curtains of life, backstage, well, you're meant to have everything that you want and more. You're meant to feel joy. You're meant for all these things, but it doesn't just happen randomly. It's about learning to lean into those things right now, and it will create more of that in the future. So I know what it's like not to trust. I know what it's like to want to be in control. I know what it's like to have this hardwired limiting belief that it could never be like that. And I've been really watching myself choose different things right now and watching the universe confirm that it was a good choice instantly, and trying to encourage me to live my life more and more like that. So I would love if you guys applied that homework, or even if you had a great story that this has already happened to you, let me know in the comments below or send me an email, because this is the kind of stuff that helps me keep walking a path. Because if you hear other people that have had similar experiences, it adds more validity and confirmation to your own. Just like that lady who described creator exactly how I saw creator in her near-death experience. So send me the message. Let's spread the light and positivity. Maybe if I get enough insight back from people, I'll be able to share these little tidbits on future episodes, anonymously, of course, because then we can all experience that cyclone of, hey, maybe what's happening inside of us or internally in our private worlds where we're connecting to our own spirit or the divine behind the curtains of the stage is really real, and it'll just confirm all of us to keep going. So I digress. Something else that's coming down the pipeline, I guess I'll share it here just because it's a place I can share, and it's ironically slightly connected to what I was going to talk about anyway. But something else that's coming out, it's going to be a summer session, and it's Creatrix, but Creatrix 2.0, because through this journey of joy and self-compassion and everything that I've learned, I really realized a couple of things. So in Creatrix, it's my big manifesting course, how to create more abundance, more rewards, more joy, all these things. But I created it many, many moons ago, actually before my shitty time in 2022, 2023. I've been editing it and adding to it over the years, but I am aware that the way Creatrix is as it is right now, it doesn't have a lot of that compassion. It doesn't have a lot of self-love. It doesn't have that let go of where you sabotage yourself and really bring forth this new loving position. It has a little bit of it, but it's really technical. The course is really 1 + 1 = 2. This is how you create. This is how you do this. And it's very powerful. So many amazing things have happened. But I see how it can make us feel more judgmental of ourselves. It makes us feel if we make a mistake, we're going to create something that we don't want. So I am launching Creatrix 2.0. It doesn't have a name yet, but I'm sure it's going to be something about compassion, the compassionate creatrix, the loving creatrix, and everything is going to change. The same technical knowledge will be there, but we're going to work on building or figuring out what's this limiting belief that keeps you from being able to see that maybe you're allowed to have rewards through an easy way, whatever you deem a reward as, right? Because I told you mine was no kahan. For you, it could be peace, it could be money, it could be travel, it could be a relationship, but it's literally going to take a whole bunch of what I've just been going through and adding that compassionate. So it's discovering and dismantling whatever that limiting belief is that holds you back from your reward. So mine was I have to suffer first, but for you, it could be something different. And then building back the true understanding of who we are, which is that we're just worthy of rewards through joy or pleasure or ease or whatever this belief is for you. We're reworking it into the other one. And we're going to do it through the space that Kuan Yin would be proud of, which would be a very compassionate, very loving lens. Everything's going to be new. It's going to be mostly live over the summer. It's going to be 12 weeks instead of 6 because trying to get all that information in 6 weeks is also kind of torture. So we're doubling it. It's going to be 12 weeks and so we have more space and time to integrate the lessons. And I think that it will be pre-recorded theory, the content, the understanding, which will be, I'm trying to keep it more digestible too. So it's not a whole bunch. And then you'll have a little bit of homework. And then the next week, we're going to meet and do a guided Akashic journey so that you are kind of put into that hypnotic state and you're going to journey to your own Akashic record to discover what is going on with you, where did it originate, and then we're going to rework these things in that kind of subconscious liminal space. So I'd love if you join me. If you're like, how do I get this insight? Creatrix or Walk on the Wild Side is where it's at. But Walk on the Wild Side is kind of a winter program because it's just the way it's designed. And then the summer program is going to be a lot more light, a lot more flexible. It is kind of still a little bit of reflection, but we've stretched the timeline. And honestly, take a look at the link below for the details, because I would truly love to pass this on. You know, I want for you, I really want for everyone, honestly, to have those aha moments, because to realize for just a hot minute that maybe everything you're doing is right and you're perfect and you're just exactly where you need to be, and melting that compassion into you. And the only purpose is to look at the place where you forgot that and bring them remembering back. Bring that remembering that you are divine and you are loved and that the universe is just cheering you on all the time and that it's about finding the joy. So again, this is my journey. You would go on your own personal journey and figure out what's going on, but I do want to pay it forward. So do check it out. All the details will be below. I haven't posted the details as the time I'm recording this, so I can't give you any more insight than just check the link below, because it's going to start on July 6th of 2026, the live version, and it'll go all the way to the fall equinox. Perfect time to reset energy. And if you are hearing this and the live cohort has already started, or this is long past, check the link anyway, because I usually have the offerings available as self-study as well, or maybe there's another upcoming round, because I really feel that I've been kind of guided to revamp this. And so when you're kind of guided to do something, it's probably going to be good. And just a little note on the guiding to redo it. So I had done a session with my friend Rochelle at the Hollow Bone Collective, and she had done a session with me, and she's like, I really get the impression that there's certain offerings that you need to tweak because you're not who you were. And when she said that to me, I did not want to hear it, because I put so much effort and time and energy and focus on everything that I've already created, programs and courses. And I was like, I cannot receive that. I cannot build something else right now. I'm so tired. And at the time, I didn't have the insight of what she just said. I think that you're being redirected. The grueling hours that I've put in to these courses and the love, I can't just not do them. So I just sat on it. I was like, I don't know if it needs to be redirected, show me the way, because I was just like so overwhelmed. And then in these meditations I've been doing with Kuan Yin, she hasn't said anything to me specifically, but she has given me a little bit of the nudge that she's the goddess of compassion and mercy. And I got so much out of her. And without saying anything, it's kind of, well, have you brought that compassion and mercy to the work that you've created? no, because I didn't have it for myself. How could I have guided anyone else through it? And so I knew it was going to be something like this. I didn't know what was going to take the attention, but it's Creatrix. It's Creatrix 2.0 with the compassion and self-mercy woven in and love that, that story of Creator would be proud of, that Kuan Yin would be proud of. So I would love to take you on the journey if you'd have me. So check it out. If you have any questions, you know where to find me.